Alright, so I figure since this is a video about the best dog movies, it's only appropriate that we have a special guest. So he's going to be joining me for the rest of the. Oh. Alright, since this is a video about the best movies about dogs, maybe it would be. This isn't going to work. You even going to try getting up? Well, never mind, I guess. Dog movies. They're technically not their own genre, but they kind of feel like it at times, right? I'm sure growing up you saw some sentimental movie about a dog, maybe a stray dog or it was adopted, and it comes into one person's life or a family's life, and they go through some adventures together, and a bond forms between them, and it's cute and there's a lot of warm, fuzzy feelings inside. A lot of them tend to be family movies and they can feel sappy and formulaic, though if there's one thing that can't be denied is that even the ones that aren't all that good are at least well-intentioned. Plus, if you're a big dog lover, sometimes just seeing a cute dog on screen for an hour and a half to 2 hours is more than enough. And there are a ton of these movies. I mean, more than I can count. So yeah, in a way they kinda make up their own subgenre. I mean, there's more movies about dogs than literally any other animal, including cats. Though to be fair, dogs are way better than cats anyway. Just kidding. While there is a formula to most of them, there are also a fair amount that still manage to tell a compelling story. So I decided to take a look back at 10 of the best movies featuring dogs as one of the main characters. And as always, I haven't seen every single movie about dogs, so if there's something I missed and you think it's worth checking out, let me know in the comments below. The honorable mentions alphabetically are The Adventures of Milo and Otis, Bolt, The Fox and the Hound, Homeward Bound, My Dog Skip, Oliver and Company, Shiloh, Sounder, The Voices, and Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. And now for my top 10 best movies about dogs of all time. Number 10 is Wendy and Lucy. Chances are you probably didn't see this one, and that's understandable. It was released in 2008 and only got a limited theatrical run, but it's certainly worth looking into, especially now, given some of the subject matter. Michelle Williams stars as a woman with some financial issues traveling across the country with her dog in hopes to find work. And along the way, she endures a lot of struggles trying to feed both herself and the dog so they can just survive making it across the country. It's a very quiet, low-key movie, but it's so heartbreaking to watch at times. Having to see what one person has to resort to in order to sustain themselves can be awful, and it can hit home for many considering the countless amount of people who are going through something similar and may have an even more difficult time than what's seen here. It's a sad movie, but I think there's a lot to be gained from watching it. Number 9 is White God. I would say this movie is the dog equivalent to Hitchcock's The Birds, because this can be eerie. This is a Hungarian movie released in 2014 about a mixed breed dog who befriends a young girl and forms a close bond with her, only for her father to take the dog away and abandon him in the middle of the road. And the dog soon befriends some other stray dogs, and it results in quite some chaos. This takes some of the usual tropes you'd find in family movies about dogs and injects them with elements of horror and heartbreaking drama. It's not an easy watch, especially seeing this poor dog initially having to fend for itself, as well as the tragedy of this young girl no longer having her best friend around. It's somber, but it's a beautifully filmed movie, with some of the shots of the dogs working in unison being genuinely bone-chilling at times. It's a unique blending of genres and shows that dog movies can be quite cinematic. Number 8 is Frankenweenie. Hey, it's Tim Burton directing a weird gothic movie. How original of him. Actually, while Tim Burton is known mainly for dark subject matter that can mix oddball premises with a sometimes grim tone, this is probably his most lighthearted movie in the last 10 years, which is saying something considering it's centered around a dead dog. Based on his own 1984 short film of the same name, as the title suggests, this is both a parody and homage to Frankenstein. It pokes fun at a lot of the main plot points, though still has an identity all its own to serve as a loving tribute to the original story. It's a very funny movie, filled with Burton's usual quirky, offbeat sense of humor. Though it still has plenty of heart, showing how much one boy values his dog and what he'll do to salvage that relationship. And it's filled with plenty of beautiful stop-motion animation that still manages to stand out wonderfully, despite being in black and white. Even if you're not a Tim Burton fan, there's a chance you may make an exception for this one. Number 7 is Lassie Come Home. Because what list about dog movies would be complete without Lassie, right? So there are 11 movies about Lassie out there, 7 of which were made by MGM and all starred a dog named Pal as Lassie. This is the first of them. Lassie's probably one of the most famous, if not the most famous, movie dogs out there. But for those not familiar, the premise is simple. Lassie is sold by her original owners due to financial troubles, escapes her new owner, and has to make her way back home. In her travels, she meets a bunch of people, some who are friendly to her and others who aren't so much. It's a feel-good movie that dog lovers will have a field day with. It shows just how powerful the effects of a dog may have on others, shown through the various people Lassie meets on her journey home. It's also a beautifully filmed movie, with some great shots of Lassie trekking her way across the countryside, all brought out magnificently through Technicolor. This grand adventure is a classic dog-centered movie and is one the whole family can certainly enjoy. Number 6 is Isle of Dogs. This one comes from director Wes Anderson, and he has a very particular style that you're either gonna love or hate. His films will often feel rapid fire between the dialogue and camera movements, and they're very sarcastic, often surreal, and sometimes minimalistic. And that's once again present here. But if you're in the love it crowd, this is another great entry into his filmography. Even though it can be funny like nearly all his other movies, I'd actually say this is probably one of his most serious films, taking place in a dystopian Japan centered around a canine flu. There's a lot to appreciate though. Anderson makes some excellent use of stop-motion animation to present some truly unique, sometimes weird imagery. Also, his tributes to Japanese cinema, in particular Akira Kurosawa, are wonderful and a treat for film buffs. Plus, the voice cast is top-notch, with Bryan Cranston, Jeff Goldblum, Edward Norton, and a slew of others leading the charge. Though at the heart of it, like all the other movies on this list, it shows the dedication of one person to find their dog, showcasing how powerful their bond can be. Number 5 is White Dog. By far the most controversial movie on this list. This actually didn't get a wide release in the US due to its subject matter. It got a few preview screenings, then a 1-week run, and that was it, only getting new life when it was released on home video over 20 years later. This film takes a very blunt, direct approach tackling the subject of racism, and it is not easy to watch. Seeing the contrasting behavior of the white German Shepherd in question acting gentle in one scene, but then quickly turning around and engage in racist behavior the next scene is truly horrifying. To say it's brutal would be putting it lightly, but writer-director Samuel Fuller doesn't hold back when analyzing a topic that's still an issue to this day. It's powerfully acted, with Paul Winfield in particular being the biggest standout as the man who tries to retrain the dog. It's a timely film with a great message that deserves a lot more attention than it ultimately got, and I highly suggest seeking it out. Number 4 is Lady and the Tramp. While this movie will forever be iconic thanks to the scene of the two dogs having the romantic Italian dinner, it still says something when it got a live-action remake, and is so far the only one of them to go straight to Disney Plus rather than theaters. I actually rewatched Lady and the Tramp right before seeing that remake, and I forgot how great it is. The animation is beautiful, and it mainly exudes this sense of warmth. A lot of my favorite sequences just show Lady in the house with her family, since all those sequences don't rely on dialogue. We see the sense of happiness that Lady gets from being with her family, and when she feels that comfort almost ripped away from her when a child enters the picture, it's a heartbreaking sight to watch, and it's nice to see the human-dog relationship through the eyes of the dog, all without having to say a word, which also makes a strong case as to why not every animated movie translates well to live action. Cute, funny, nostalgic, and all-around entertaining, this one remains a Disney classic. Number 3 is Best in Show. This movie is genius. Like director Christopher Guest's other movies such as Waiting for Guffman and A Mighty Wind, this one is largely improvised, with essentially little to no planning going into it beyond a basic story. And the fact they're able to pull off improvising nearly an entire movie centered around a dog show is something truly spectacular. It's filled with all of Guest's regulars from Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara, Michael McKean, and the biggest standout of them all, Fred Willard as the oblivious commentator. All of them were at the top of their game here, showing off how amazing their comedic timing truly is. It's a 90-minute movie, though about 3,600 minutes were actually shot, and I can only imagine how great some of the material they didn't use was. While mockumentaries have become considerably more popular thanks to their use in television like The Office or Parks and Recreation, this is still one of the finest examples of the subgenre out there. Number 2 is 101 Dalmatians. I think one of the most underrated periods of time for Disney were the 60s and 70s. More than anything, these movies were just a lot of fun. The Jungle Book, The Aristocats, Robin Hood, The Sword and the Stone, and this, among a few others. Probably what made them such a blast to watch is that they were all made under the supervision of director Wolfgang Reitherman, who was a key voice in the company since the 1930s. Like some of his other Disney efforts that followed, there are times this film can feel comically exaggerated, over the top, and outright hilarious. It gave us one of the best, and at times what I feel is underrated, Disney villains in Cruella de Vil, with a catchy song named after her that I don't think gets enough credit. Despite being overtly comical, it still retains plenty of the classic Disney charm and warmth, seen through the Dalmatians' interactions. Plus, scenes such as the famous Twilight Bark remain classic Disney moments. A good time from start to finish, this is a top-tier entry from one of Disney's finest eras. And at number 1 is Old Yeller. For the most part, I think animated Disney is much better than live-action Disney, but there are still a fair amount of times when live-action Disney hits its mark, and when it does, it hits hard. And this is one of those times. If anything, this is known as probably one of the saddest Disney movies out there, and if you're not sure why, well, go see for yourself. But this movie gets me every time I watch it. While the relationship between a dog and a human is a central theme behind nearly all the movies on this list, that's 100% this movie's driving force. It's a simple story just showing what life is like for a boy and his dog. It isn't this good versus evil movie like most other Disney movies. In fact, there isn't even really an antagonist. At times, it can just feel like a series of moments, and yeah, truthfully, that doesn't always work for movies. But it's something you can absolutely pull off when you're just trying to show how, even through day-to-day interactions, how much of an effect your dog can truly have on your life. Because sometimes that's all that life is. You don't need some cartoonish villain to step in to effectively show how powerful a relationship like that can be. You can see it conveyed through simple moments, and it can say a lot. With so much emotion behind it, not only is this the best movie centered around a dog, it's truly one of Disney's greatest films. There are quite a few gems out there. Some of these films are now even considered some of the best of all time. So there's a lot more to be said about these movies than just dogs being cute for an hour and a half to 2 hours. It's not all the time we get to see movies about dogs be this good, but I'm certainly looking forward to the next time we're treated to one. So let me know, what's your favorite movie about dogs? Was it something I listed here? Was it something I left off? And are you more of a dog person or a cat person, or both? Let me know in the comments below. And for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll catch you next time.